Let's look at the Amazon. This vast, seemingly untamed, pristine wilderness may not be what we once thought it to be. Recent studies suggest that this, as well as the primeval forests of North America, may have, in pre-Columbian times, been far more influenced and managed by the indigenous population than European settlers originally gave them credit for. Coming from the perspective of permaculture, it is hard not to imagine that for 11,000 years that we know people existed in this landscape, that they were not merely hunters and gatherers, but were in fact gardeners, natural farmers, and master herbalists, shaping and manipulating their surroundings to their needs. They didn't fence in their animals or grow crops in straight lines. So to the unfamiliar eye, this form of agriculture looked like a wilderness. At this time, the principles of permaculture, though unnamed, were practiced intuitively. But as societies shifted, this ancient wisdom began to fade into obscurity. It wasn't until the 20th century that some people began to do something that few of their European ancestors had thought to do. They listened.
I'm David Holmgren, and I'm best known as the co-originator of the permaculture concept.
I met Bill Mollison through a chance event that he was participating at. And that was late 74, where the seed of the idea for the permaculture concept emerged. And then our relationship was that of mentor to student, but never a formal relationship. And we worked together and I crafted this manuscript. It was Bill in that phase who encouraged me to hand the manuscript back to him, and he was ready to take these ideas to a larger stage. And in 76, we published a joint article and did some interviews, and then we had this huge interest from publishers wanting to publish the manuscript that became Permaculture 1. And Bill Mollison had the energy and the boldness to leave his tenured position at the university and outside of academia take permaculture to the world, whereas I was very young and I didn't feel exactly like I had the grounded experience to sort of back all the interest that there was in this. So my interest was in, if you like, doing permaculture rather than talking about it or whatever. And so, yeah, to an extent, I say while I and Bill Mollison were the co-originators of the permaculture concept, Bill Mollison was the father of the permaculture movement. And right from the beginning, it sort of really became a movement.
Rather than fighting against the world we didn't want or just trying to analyse our own extinction, as the saying goes, that it was more important to actually just directly do things. And so the whole self-sufficiency movement of that time was the context in which permaculture was providing a framework. So rather than just reinventing, oh, we'll just do what the grandparents did or the ancestors did, can we use modern design thinking, ecological concepts to maybe, yes, bring in some of those older ways, but tweak it to make it both more sustainable, lower impact on nature, but also more durable for the future.
Meanwhile in Japan, Masanobu Fukuoka was pioneering his method of natural farming. His book, The One Straw Revolution, challenged conventional agricultural practices, advocating for a return to simplicity and harmony with nature.
Look at this healthy crop of rice. I will have more than 1,300 pounds of rice per quarter acre. It was grown without chemical fertilizer, pesticides, or agricultural machinery. I stopped using those things more than 30 years ago. All I've done is sow the seeds and spread straw. Nature has done the rest.
You made a mistake. Why? You did plow. You planted seedlings. You watered. That was the start of killing soil. Tilling seems to soften the soil, but that is not true. If you water it, it turns hard. The soil here is hard, and the root can't go down deep. Once plowed, however slightly, 10, 20, 30-year-old weed seeds will sprout and grow. The more you plow, the more weeds grow. But if you sow clover or alfalfa, the weed will recede. There grow vegetables. Among the vegetables, sow the seeds of fruits and trees, not after plowing.
In Europe, Sepp Holzer became known as the rebel farmer. He demonstrated the potential of permaculture in challenging climates. His mountainous farm in the Austrian Alps showcased innovative techniques such as hugelkultur. And while observing his neighbour's land being eroded by monocultures of fir trees, he instead adopted the technique of forming terraces and a series of ponds.
The digger terraces the hill so that the soil erosion is stopped and the soil and humus stabilized.
Humus nicht ausgewachsen wird, sondern dass sich das ablagert. Und wenn ich wieder Neuland dazu kriege, wie dort dieses
When I get a new piece of land, just like this one here, it has to be terraced. It costs, of course, but it's very economic because I don't have to irrigate or fertilize and I don't need expensive equipment. Once this job is done, it stays done for generations.
Der Bagger fährt wieder weg und die Arbeit ist gemacht für Generationen. Da ist nichts mehr zu tun da.
Originally, I bought water for my land from the neighbours. I had only a small well on my own land, so I piped water here. I bought about 8 kilometres of pipes. I tapped off the well and channeled the water here. Then I built ponds and water gardens. And after observing for a while, you start to see the possibilities.
Biotope, Wassergärten.
In England, Robert Hart introduced the concept of forest gardening. And from his property in Shropshire, he created, most likely, the oldest remaining example of a cool temperate food forest, implementing 7 layers of plant life as Bill Mollison had taught him in an early permaculture design course.
This is an old pear tree that was planted 30 years ago, so that constitutes the canopy. Then there's the low tree layer, that is an apple on dwarfing rootstock, a shade-tolerant apple. Then there's the shrub layer, this is a red currant bush. Then this is the herbaceous layer comprising apple, mint, and this is the ground cover layer. That is a strawberry raspberry, a plant that spreads horizontally. Then there's the root layer, comprising plants that are grown for their roots alone. And then there's the vertical layer of climates like raspberries and loganberries. Many of the herbs are fragrant herbs. Everyone knows that lavender, for instance, wards off clothes moths. And it's reasonable to suppose that aromatic herbs of that kind also ward off pests and diseases from neighboring plants.
In the 80s, Emilia Hayslip, after reading Masanobu Fukuoka's One Straw Revolution, sought to apply these techniques to the French climate. She experimented and developed the technique she called synergistic gardening, emphasizing the importance of biodiversity and self-organization in natural systems, while laying the groundwork and pioneering what we today call no-dig gardening.
I am a farmer living in France. My organic agriculture apprenticeship took place in California in the early 60s. The plowing, the tilling of the soil that I was supposed to do kept reminding me of the burnt, suffering earth of the Castilian wheat fields in Spain. I became interested in the work of Fukuoka in 1978 when I read his book. His work was living proof of the validity of my intuition that tilling the soil was not necessary. But the results that I had by imitating him were so disappointing that very quickly I realized the need to modify and to adapt his system to other cultural and climatic conditions. The garden that you see here has been done following the same principles that Fukuoka proposes, so as to have high-quality yields while maintaining permanently the soil fertility of a wild soil. This agronomical system uses the dynamics of the synergistic law.
Then on the African continent, in his homeland of Zimbabwe, Alan Savory developed a concept he called holistic management, a grazing technique aimed at restoring degraded landscapes and combating desertification by mimicking the migration of wild animal herds with domestic livestock. This went on to inspire the likes of Joel Salatin and Gabe Brown, forming the basis of mob grazing and regenerative agriculture.
Desertification is just a fancy word for land drying up and turning to desert ultimately, and this is a good spot to illustrate it. It happens because of our practices that make the rainfall that we receive less effective. And you see it here where soil is exposed. Any rain soaking into the soil will just evaporate out of it again because this is hot. It's hot even to touch now. And when high rainfall falls, it runs off, and you can actually see the runoff of the layer of litter that is swept off that as water runs. And this saying that people have that droughts cause the bare ground is nonsense. It's the bare ground that causes the droughts. It's the other way around. Here's a good spot to show you why we have to get more animals and are desperate to get the money and buy the cattle that we need. Because here you have grass that we did not graze last year, and it just kills itself. It's changed to oxidation. You see the different color. That is gradual chemical breakdown, not rapid biological breakdown, and the plants just kill themselves. Because the cattle are the main tool, using their hooves, etc., to grow the grass, they graze everywhere on the ranch. So as you look up on these rocky hills, you'll see all of that is fresh grass of the season, and that's because the cattle are grazed right over the hills and everywhere. There's no area where we don't use the cattle at some time in the year. Okay, I love this because the cattle herd has done everything we want. They've flattened grass, laid litter, scalloped the soil so that the water, carbon, everything is getting into the soil now. This will rebound immediately. We've used nothing but solar energy, and we can do this day after day after day on different parts of the land, creating the wildlife habitat we need and healing the land.
In India, Vandana Shiva began to stand up to large corporations who were patenting genetically modified seeds. She has been a powerhouse champion for farmers in India and across the world, demonstrating the importance of seed saving and self-reliance.
The patent is a very sweeping patent. It's a plant patent, which the European Patent Office should never have given. It's a patent using Indian wheat varieties and putting their traits into varieties over which now Monsanto claims of invention. And it's got claims in that patent about products made from these wheat varieties. So it's all the way from the seed to the kitchen.
And I want to just share with you the very good news that we have just won the third fight against the pirates who take our seeds, our knowledge, and claim it to be their invention. Basmati was stolen, we reclaimed it. Our neem was stolen, we reclaimed it. And now, just on 26th of September, the European Patent Office revoked the wheat patent number EP0445929, which was a patent held by Monsanto based on stealing an ancient Indian wheat variety with low gluten and low elasticity. Every speaker this evening has talked about a world without GMOs, a world without seed patenting and life patenting. That is the world we are here to create, and I am absolutely confident we will. Seed by seed, plant by plant, peasant by peasant, community by community, country by country, we will liberate the earth, we will reclaim our food freedom. Thank you.
All the while in the US, Dr. Elaine Ingham undertook groundbreaking research in soil microbiology, demonstrating the importance of nurturing soil biodiversity and showing how healthy soils are the foundation of sustainable agriculture. She fostered the idea of a soil food web and created a school to train lab techs across the world to help farmers improve the biology in their soil.
What we try to present to people is that, why would Mother Nature be responsible for sending you a disease? She's making it more difficult for you. Why would she be doing that? Because you're doing it wrong. And she's trying to send a message that is basically, wake up, fellas. And if you don't pay any attention to me, it may take me 5 years to come back, but I will be back if you don't listen to what I'm saying to you. And now the diseases are worse. They wipe out your whole crop instead of just reducing. And if you don't listen, then okay, she's going to come back with something even more terrible, where good luck growing anything in there. To the point where what we're facing is we're burning up the planet around ourselves. So whenever we would like to get around to paying attention, we've got a pretty good handle on how to manage that. We don't know everything yet. I would be bored if I knew everything. She's sending us messages, and we need to pay attention and start moving things back. And the things we're moving back are her microorganisms, her fungi, the protozoans, the nematodes, the microarthropods, the macroarthropods, the spiders, all those things that people go, ew! Yes, the spider does not belong crawling up on my shoulder. But it doesn't deserve to be squished.
And then back again in Australia, a student of Bill Mollison later became his teaching partner and protege. Jeff Lawton established the Permaculture Research Institute and is today teaching students from all over the world through online and in-person courses, while also directing the monumental Greening the Desert project in the Dead Sea Valley.
And Jeff Lawton, can you tell us about him and as a teacher?
Jeff Lawton, who's he? I've never heard of him. I'd hate to recommend him because as I don't know him, he could be a bastard,
Well, evolutionary processes are quite scary because we're going into the unknown, and so you're kind of edgy. You're out there on the pointy end of things, not the blunt end of things, and you're sort of pushing the edge. You're on the front line. You're almost in a warrior mode, pushing towards a beneficial evolutionary process, and having a vehicle that will help you drive towards that evolutionary process and give you some sort of extra carriage. You can feel more assured that, okay, I have the vehicle's like a checking mechanism for my action. It's a process that I can use. It gives you that extra security that you're gonna, with less effort, you're gonna cover more distance and get to your destination faster. And boy, we need to get there a bit faster. I think people have to have a little bit of courage, and I appreciate that. It is a little bit of a courageous move, but I think many of us can reassure our clients, our customers, people who are interested, that if you just take that little bit of a courageous move, once you step into this way of operating, this way of thinking, this sort of involvement, everything gets easier, everything gets more meaningful, and it becomes very entertaining and quite good fun. I still hold on to Graham Bell's words, which always touched me in his first book, The Permaculture Way. If you're not having fun, you got the design wrong.
There are no doubt many more names I could list. These are just some of the early pioneers who inspired me when I started my permaculture journey in 2008. Let me know in the comments who your favourite pioneers were and why.